London, 2001. I had just lost the fifth woman I ever loved. Fifth relationship. Same pattern. Same ending. And the terrifying part? I knew exactly why it kept happening. I had known since I was 8 years old. There are secrets that fade with time. And then there are secrets that grow. That mutate. That turn into something far more dangerous than the truth ever was. This is the story of a secret that wasn't mine to keep, but I kept it anyway. For 24 years. 5 women walked out of my life. 5 chances at happiness destroyed. Not because I didn't love them, but because something inside me wouldn't let me. A wall I couldn't break down. A pattern I couldn't escape. And it all started with something I saw when I was just a child. What could an 8-year-old witness that would destroy every relationship he'd ever have as an adult? Why would a grown man choose to protect a dead woman's secret over his own chance at love? And how do you break free from a promise you made before you even understood what promises meant? Before I answer that, we need to go back. Back to 1987. Back to the day everything changed. London, 2001. I was 32 years old, and I had just destroyed the best relationship of my life. Sarah was standing in my living room, tears streaming down her face, asking me one simple question. Why can't you just let me in? I opened my mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Because the truth was buried so deep, so dark, that I didn't even know how to find it anymore. She left that night. And I sat alone in the dark, realizing that this wasn't the first time. It was the fifth woman. 5th relationship. Same pattern. Same ending. And the worst part? I knew exactly why it kept happening. I had known since I was 8 years old. There's a secret I've been carrying since childhood. A secret that wasn't mine to keep, but I kept it anyway. And it didn't just live in my memory. It lived in my chest, in my throat, in every moment I tried to love someone and couldn't. This is the story of how that secret destroyed everything I ever tried to build. And how it almost destroyed me. My name is James, and this is my confession. The pattern started long before Sarah. It started with Emma when I was 19. She was my first real girlfriend, the first woman I actually thought I could build something with. We were together for almost a year. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. She started asking questions. Not invasive ones, just normal relationship questions. Tell me about your family. What was your childhood like? Why don't you ever talk about your mom? Simple things. Things any girlfriend would ask. But every time she did, I felt this wall shoot up inside me. This physical barrier that I couldn't control. I'd change the subject. I'd make a joke. I'd pick a fight about something completely unrelated. Anything to avoid answering. Emma noticed. Of course she noticed. She'd ask why I was being so distant, why I was shutting her out. And I couldn't explain it because I didn't even understand it myself. All I knew was that there were rooms in my mind I couldn't let her into. So I pushed her away. Slowly at first, then all at once. She left confused and hurt, thinking she'd done something wrong. She hadn't. It was all me. It was always me. Then came Rachel. Then Sophie. Then Claire. Each one different, each one special in her own way. And each one met the same wall. I had this self-destruct mechanism built into me and I couldn't turn it off. The closer they got, the harder I pushed. The more they loved me, the more I sabotaged it. By the time Sarah came along, I was exhausted. Exhausted from running, from hiding, from pretending I was fine when I was falling apart inside. Sarah was different though. She was patient. She didn't push. She let me move at my own pace. For 2 years we built something real. Something I thought might actually last. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday afternoon in September when everything fell apart. I was cleaning out my father's old study, something I'd been avoiding for months since he'd moved to a care home. The room smelled like dust and old leather. I was going through drawers, throwing out decades of receipts and bank statements when I found it. A small photograph, faded and bent at the corners. I picked it up without thinking. And the moment I saw it, my entire body went cold. It was a family photo from 1987. Me, my father, my mother. I was 8 years old in that picture, smiling at the camera with missing front teeth. But that wasn't what made me freeze. It was what I remembered about the day that photo was taken. Because that was the day. The day I learned the secret. The day everything changed. If you've ever carried something heavy for so long that you forget you're carrying it, drop a comment below. Because that's what this felt like. A weight I'd grown so used to that I didn't even realize it was crushing me anymore. I sat down on the floor of that study, holding that photograph, and for the first time in 24 years I let myself remember. Really remember. Not the filtered version I told myself. Not the story I'd buried under layers of denial. The truth. I was 8 years old. It was summer, July, hot enough that the pavement burned through my trainers. My father had taken me to the park to play football. We'd been there for hours, and when we came home earlier than expected, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Dad told me to go wash up for dinner. I ran upstairs, still full of energy, still innocent. I walked past my parents' bedroom and the door was open just a crack. I should have kept walking. I should have gone straight to the bathroom. But I heard voices. My mother's voice. And another voice. A man's voice. Not my father's. I pushed the door open. Just a little. Just enough to see. My mother was sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, but her face was flushed. There was a man I didn't recognize standing by the window. He was putting on his jacket. They were talking in low, urgent voices. And then my mother turned and saw me. The look on her face. I can still see it. Pure panic. Pure fear. She said my name. James. Just that. Just my name. The man looked at me too, then looked at her, and without another word, he left through the back stairs. My mother came to me, knelt down to my level. Her hands were shaking. She told me that what I'd seen was nothing. That the man was just a friend. That I shouldn't mention it to anyone, especially not to Dad. She said it would hurt him. That it would break our family apart. She said, "Can you keep a secret, James? Can you be a big boy and keep this between us?" I nodded. I was 8. I didn't understand what I'd seen, but I understood that I'd done something wrong by seeing it. So I promised. I kept the secret. But secrets don't just sit still. They grow. They mutate. They poison everything around them. That night at dinner, my father talked about work. My mother smiled and passed the potatoes. And I sat there, 8 years old, choking on a secret I didn't have the words to explain. I didn't tell anyone. Not that day. Not ever. Because I'd promised. And because some part of me believed that if I told, I'd be the one who destroyed the family. I'd be the bad guy. Years passed. My mother never mentioned it again. The man never came back as far as I knew. Life went on. But I was different. I watched my parents differently. I watched my mother lie to my father every single day just by smiling at him. Just by pretending everything was fine. And I was part of that lie. I became an accomplice to something I didn't even fully understand. It shaped everything. The way I saw relationships. The way I saw women. The way I saw myself. By the time I was a teenager, I'd built an entire personality around that secret. I became the funny one, the charming one, the one who never took anything too seriously. Because if I did, if I let things get real, someone might see through me. Someone might ask the wrong question. And I'd have to choose between telling the truth and keeping the promise I'd made when I was 8. My mother died when I was 23. Cancer. It was quick and brutal. She was here one day, gone 3 months later. And with her went any chance I had of ever confronting her, of ever asking her why. Why she put that burden on a child. Why she made me her keeper. I grieved her death, but I also grieved the conversation we'd never have. The closure I'd never get. And the secret stayed locked inside me. Growing. Festering. Turning into something worse than the truth ever could have been. Back in 2001, sitting on the floor of my father's study, I finally understood. I finally saw what that secret had done to me. It wasn't just about my mother's infidelity. It was about trust. It was about the fact that I'd learned at 8 years old that the people you love most can lie to your face and make you complicit in their lies. That love isn't safe. That intimacy is a trap. That if you let someone close enough, they'll make you carry their secrets, their shame, their weight. And you'll spend the rest of your life suffocating under it. Every relationship I'd ever had was poisoned by that belief. I couldn't let Emma in because I was terrified she'd see the real me and make me her secret keeper. I couldn't let Rachel in because deep down, I didn't believe anyone could be faithful. I couldn't let Sophie or Claire or Sarah in because I'd spent 24 years believing that love was just a prettier word for betrayal. I sat there crying, holding that stupid photograph, hating my mother and missing her at the same time. Hating myself for never being able to let it go. That night Sarah came over. She knew something was wrong the moment she saw me. She asked what happened. And I wanted to tell her. I swear I wanted to. But when I opened my mouth, the words wouldn't come. Because telling her meant destroying the image of my mother. It meant admitting that the foundation of my entire personality was built on a lie I'd kept for a dead woman. It meant being vulnerable in a way I'd never been before. And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. So I told her I was fine. I told her it was just stress. I lied. Just like my mother had lied. Just like I'd been lying to everyone, including myself, for 2 decades. Sarah didn't believe me. She was smarter than that. She'd been patient for 2 years, but patience has limits. She said, "James, I love you, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep fighting to get close to someone who won't let me in. I need you to trust me. I need you to tell me what's going on. and I just stared at her. Because in that moment I realized I had two choices. Tell her the truth and risk her seeing me as damaged, as broken, as the boy who kept his mother's dirty secret. Or keep lying and lose her anyway. I chose the lie. I chose the secret. Just like I always had. She left that night. Packed a bag, called a taxi, and walked out of my life. She didn't scream. She didn't slam the door. She just looked at me with this unbearable sadness and said, "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. Because you're never going to find it in another person until you figure out what's broken inside you." The door closed. And I was alone. Again. Have you ever lost someone because you couldn't be honest? Leave a comment. Because that's what this comes down to. Honesty. Not with them. With yourself. The weeks after Sarah left were the darkest of my life. I stopped going to work. Stopped answering calls. I'd wake up at 3 in the afternoon and realize I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My flat became a tomb. And in that silence, I finally had to face what I'd been running from since I was 8 years old. I'd spent 24 years protecting a dead woman's secret. But in doing so, I'd sacrificed my own life. My own chance at love. My own happiness. I'd been so afraid of betraying my mother that I'd betrayed myself over and over again. And for what? She was gone. The secret didn't matter anymore. It never really mattered. The only person it was still hurting was me. One night at 2 in the morning, I did something I'd never done before. I called a therapist. Left a voicemail. My voice was shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. "I need help." That was all I said. "I need help." Dr. Patel called me back the next morning. Her voice was calm, steady, professional. She had an opening that afternoon. I almost didn't go. I sat in my car outside her office for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, telling myself I could just drive away. But something kept me there. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the last tiny spark of hope that I could actually fix this. I walked in. Sat down. And for the first time in my entire life, I told someone the truth. I told her about the photograph. About what I saw when I was 8. About the promise I made. About how that promise had become a prison. I told her about Emma and Rachel and Sophie and Claire and Sarah. I told her about the wall I couldn't tear down no matter how hard I tried. And as I talked, something strange happened. The weight started to lift. Not all of it. Not even most of it. But enough that I could breathe a little easier. Dr. Patel listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. She said, "James, you were 8 years old. You were a child. What your mother asked you to do was not your responsibility. It was never your burden to carry. You didn't betray anyone by keeping that secret. But you have been betraying yourself by letting it define your entire life." I started crying. Not the quiet, dignified kind of crying. The ugly, choking kind. The kind that comes from 24 years of holding everything in. She continued. "The secret was never about protecting your mother. It was about protecting yourself from the pain of acknowledging that the person you trusted most was flawed. That she made a mistake. That she was human. But in trying to protect that perfect image of her, you've made it impossible to connect with anyone else. Because you've been living in fear that everyone you love will ask you to carry their secrets too. That everyone will betray you the way you felt betrayed by her." She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing it and fixing it were two different things. Over the next few months, I saw Dr. Patel twice a week. We unpacked everything. The guilt. The shame. The anger I didn't even know I'd been carrying. We talked about my mother, and I had to accept that I could love her and be angry at her at the same time. That she could be a good mother in many ways and still have made a terrible mistake. That her mistake wasn't mine to fix or hide. We talked about my father, who still didn't know. Who would probably never know. And I had to accept that some secrets don't need to be told. That protecting him from pain wasn't the same as what my mother had done to me. That I could let this go without needing to unburden it onto him. Most importantly, we talked about me. About the man I'd become because of that one moment. The walls I'd built. The patterns I'd created. And slowly, painfully, I started to understand that I wasn't broken. I was just stuck. Stuck in a promise I'd made when I didn't know any better. Dr. Patel gave me homework. She told me to write a letter. Not to my mother. Not to my father. To Sarah. Not to send it. Just to write it. To put into words everything I'd been unable to say. I spent 3 weeks on that letter. I rewrote it a dozen times. I cried over it. I tore it up and started again. But eventually I finished it. And in that letter I told her everything. About the photograph. About the secret. About why I'd pushed her away. About how sorry I was. About how she deserved so much better than what I'd given her. I didn't send it. Dr. Patel told me not to. She said the letter wasn't for Sarah. It was for me. It was me finally being honest, even if only on paper. But then something unexpected happened. I realized I wanted to send it. Not because I expected her to take me back. Not because I thought it would fix anything. But because she deserved an explanation. She deserved to know that it was never about her. That she hadn't done anything wrong. That the problem was always me. So I sent it. Put it in an envelope, wrote her address, and dropped it in the post box before I could change my mind. I don't know if she ever read it. She never responded. And that's okay. Because for the first time in 24 years, I wasn't carrying that secret alone anymore. I'd spoken it into existence. I'd let it out of the dark room in my mind where it had been festering. And that was enough. Months passed. I kept seeing Dr. Patel. I started rebuilding my life. I reconnected with old friends I'd pushed away. I went back to work. I started exercising again, eating properly, sleeping at normal hours. Small things. But they mattered. I thought about dating, but I wasn't ready. I needed to be okay with myself first. I needed to prove to myself that I could be alone without falling apart. That my worth wasn't tied to whether someone loved me. That I could be whole on my own. One day, almost a year after I'd sent that letter, I got a message. It was from Sarah. Just 3 sentences. I read your letter. Thank you for finally being honest. I hope you're doing better. That was it. No request to meet up. No anger. No love. Just acknowledgement. And somehow that was the closure I needed. Not the fairy tale ending where we got back together. Just the simple recognition that she'd heard me. That I'd been seen. I wrote back. Just 1 sentence. I am. Thank you. And I meant it. I was doing better. Not perfect. Not healed. But better. I was learning to live with my past instead of being controlled by it. I was learning that vulnerability wasn't weakness. That honesty wasn't betrayal. That I could let people in without losing myself. The secret I carried since childhood didn't disappear. It's still part of my story. But it's no longer the only part. It's no longer the defining part. I'm 33 now and I'm still figuring things out. I'm still in therapy. I'm still working on myself. But I'm free in a way I never was before. Free from the weight of protecting a lie. Free from the fear of being known. If you're watching this and you're carrying a secret from your childhood, something you were told to never speak about, something that's shaping your life in ways you don't even realize, I want you to know this. It's not your burden to carry. It never was. You were a child. And whatever happened, whatever you saw or experienced or were made complicit in, it wasn't your responsibility to fix or hide. You deserve to put it down. You deserve to be free. It won't be easy. It'll hurt like hell. You'll have to face things you've been running from for years, maybe decades. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. Real, actual freedom. The freedom to love without walls. The freedom to be known without shame. The freedom to finally be yourself. I destroyed 5 relationships before I learned that lesson. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you've lost everything before you're willing to face the truth. Talk to someone. A therapist, a friend, someone you trust. Let the secret out of the dark. Because as long as you're carrying it alone, it's not a secret. It's a prison. My name is James. I'm 33 years old. And I spent 24 years of my life protecting a secret that was never mine to keep. This is my story. This is my truth. And if it helps even one person watching this to put down the weight they've been carrying, then it was worth telling. If this story resonated with you, if you've been carrying something similar, leave a comment below. You don't have to share the secret. Just let us know you're here. You're not alone. None of us are. And sometimes that's all we need to hear to take the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And if you take anything from this story, let it be this. The secrets we keep from others are painful, but the secrets we keep from ourselves are deadly. Be honest. Be vulnerable. Be free. You deserve it.